Early on, I worked on a campaign with a major brand. We don't need to get into the brand, but they refused to let go of the old school tactics. They insisted on focusing on billboards, brochures, glossy ads, while the audience have already shifted to digital and mobile. They spent a fortune, but it failed to connect. The lesson was clear. Don't fight the market. The market doesn't care what worked 20 years ago. You either adapt or you get left behind in the dust.
Welcome to our podcast, The Future of Hospitality. I'm your host, Arjan Eikeleboom. Today we talk with Scott Eddy, and his story is anything but traditional. He grew up around police stations, trained to become an officer, switched careers into high finance, and then walked away from it all to start over in Asia, where he built the region's first big digital marketing agency and became a pioneer in social media for travel. Today, Scott is a hospitality influencer, a brand strategist, and a globe-trotting speaker. On today's show, he will reveal what he thinks about ghosting in the hospitality industry. Ghosting. Also, why the US no longer feels like home to him anymore, and why he believes the real future of hospitality lies overseas. All right, Scott, welcome to our show.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. I'm glad to have you. We're going to talk about ghosting later on. First, straight from the hip, what's the single biggest mistake that hospitality brands make on social media?
I mean, these days, they treat social media like a billboard instead of a conversation. Too many hotels, resorts, cruise lines, they still post polished, stock style photos with generic captions, thinking that's marketing. And that approach completely misses the psychology of why people engage online. Social media isn't showing a room or showing a pool. It's about making somebody feel something. Make them feel like they're already there. You're building trust and that emotional connection before they even book. If you're not telling authentic stories, showing real people, not perfect people, responding to comments, which is the biggest issue in the industry, and creating content designed to spark conversation, you're invisible in the algorithm and irrelevant to the guest journey.
Wow. Okay. So, no, I totally get you. It's about authenticity. Tell the real story. That's what you say. You don't try to polish it up because people see right through that. And also an interesting thing you say is when people comment, respond.
I mean, that just goes back to brands don't invest in full-time social media people. And if they do have them, they have 15 other jobs that are quote unquote more important than the social media. So they don't have time to reply.
You know, so you cannot focus on it.
They don't understand that attention is the new currency. Currency is not what it used to be 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It's all about attention. And you got to treat every post like it's a piece of storytelling that earns the right to eventually ask for a booking.
Right. Interesting. Let's dive into that a little deeper later on. First, what is the first hotel you ever fell in love with? I want to know.
Puri in Phuket, Thailand.
And why was that?
So it's when Amman was just coming out. That was their first property. And I still use them as a case study when I speak. I think they are the definition of perfect branding, perfect marketing. I think their verbiage is flawless. I think that the color grading, the angles, the design, the minimalist style, I think that they just do things correctly. They were a client of mine many, many years ago when I first started my digital agency, when I opened up in Bangkok, and I visited the property many, many times. And Southeast Asia as a whole, but Southeast Asia as a whole has unbelievable properties. I mean, and because hospitality is inside their DNA when they were growing up, you don't need to train them.
No. I see what you mean. And it's not because of
is
It's
inside of
not and it's not because they get higher tips. It's just in their DNA.
Yeah, a lot of them will reject the tips. They
Notice
just
what I
do
mean.
it because that's how they were raised.
No. Interesting. Boutique hotel or luxury resort?
So it depends. Boutique for intimacy, resort for scale. It depends on what's the mood. You know, do I want to go to the resort and not leave and have 15 restaurant options, bars everywhere, 4 pools? You know, I just came from a resort in Mexico, and they had 6 resorts on 2,500 acres. And I mean, you didn't have to leave the property because it's a city within a city.
Just like a cruise boat, one of those large cruise boats.
Correct.
Okay, so it depends. Yeah, it totally depends. Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok? I mean, you're all over the place. Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok?
I mean, Twitter is irrelevant these days.
It's X. Sorry,
it breaks my heart. Well, X, but
Yeah.
it breaks my heart because that's where I built my brand. I still have my biggest audience there. It's just heartbreaking what it is today. I'm still holding on hope that one day it's going to come back, but the brands hire me for Instagram, sometimes TikTok, but mostly Instagram, just because that's where they are. There's still a lot of brands that aren't on TikTok. They just don't believe in it. You know,
Okay.
to be fair, they're idiots, and they don't realize the power of these platforms. You know,
You started off on X, so it's Twitter at the time.
did.
That is where you started.
I did.
And you're also big on LinkedIn. That's where we connected.
It is.
And you said people are. I want to dive a little deep. I wasn't planning on this, but why are they fools if they're not on TikTok?
So I just think it creates a different type of storytelling. So the reason that brands aren't on TikTok is because when TikTok first started, no different than any other platform, but it started very young, just like Facebook, just like Instagram, just like any other platform. But they were known for people doing their dances, 12-year-old kids dancing on the screen. And that's what the platform was known for. What brands don't realize is the authentic storytelling and the short form videos that you can do on TikTok really scale inside the algorithm like no other platform. And shocking to everybody who's watching this video, the most active demographic and the most fastest growing demographic on TikTok right now is 38 to 55.
Seriously. Oh,
See,
I was honest. I didn't know they were on
that because they don't try to know. You have to constantly be learning. Listen, I have been on social media since day one. I was first 2,000 users on Twitter. I grew very fast. I was the first American expat in every Asian country to have 1 million followers on Twitter. I can promise you I still spend 2-3 hours a day on YouTube watching social media experts, whatever they want to call themselves, people that are bigger than me, people that are smaller than me, social media conferences, digital people, like whatever it is, like I just want to learn.
You still want to learn. I mean
every day, 7 days a week, 7 days a week.
Okay. So is that because this is a particular media style that is constantly evolving and maybe even faster than we can comprehend? Is that it?
It's faster than both of us can comprehend together. It changes all the time. So if you don't have your finger on the pulse, if you don't constantly monitor, like what is the character limit on a LinkedIn caption? Do you know? Most brands don't know that it's 3,000 characters. So when you're crafting that story, and do you know that longer captions do better than shorter captions?
That's why I see the longer captions nowadays.
And the reason every one of my captions is almost 3,000 characters. And they all do very something. Well. You constantly have to be learning, but these things change all the time.
Wow. Thank you so much for this insight. I learned something. What is the best let's move on. The best airport in the world?
I would have to say two, either
Okay.
Suvarnabhumi in Bangkok or Changi in Singapore. It's
What makes the
100% in
Oh,
Asia.
I love
Like, it's not
yeah.
even close. It's not
Okay.
even close. American airports, they're utilitarian. They're
Tell
not
me why. Tell me
because
why.
they're
Tell
not
us why.
built for hospitality. They're built to catch your flight. Yeah, they
Business.
have restaurants. Yeah, they have bars. Yeah, they have, like, it's just different.
Yeah. Yeah. Most overrated travel destination.
Any place that's chasing trends without authenticity. I don't have a specific one that I can come up with, but that would be my answer.
Right. And the most underrated?
Sri Lanka.
Oh, why is
I
that?
lived I lived in Colombo for a year, and it absolutely blew my mind. Um, I think it's still raw. The tourism has not ruined the country yet. Um, you still get that warmth of South Asia, really.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, it's wonderful. It's a
Okay.
fantastic place. It's not my favorite place in the world. We already touched on this. It's Thailand, but
Yeah.
Sri Lanka is just completely raw and untouched.
All right. Okay. We'll remember that for the next travel. What was the exact moment, Scott, that you knew hospitality and not finance was where you belonged?
Well, for a decade, I worked in investment banking. I was young and driven and chasing the almighty dollar, but I always knew something was missing. The real turning point came before finance. I was 18. I was just about to graduate high school, and suddenly my whole life felt uncertain. Um, was about to become a police officer. My father was killed in the line of duty, and
Oh,
finance just happened to appear. A friend of a
how
friend,
old? Sorry, I don't want to skip just that
18.
your dad. You were 18 when your dad passed away in the line of duty.
Yes, I turned 18 on April 14th. My father was killed on May 25th. So it was a month and a half.
Okay, that must have impacted every choice.
Every choice. I mean,
Mhm.
listen, even today, I consider myself, I have one skill, and that's to be a law enforcement officer because I was raised in it. My whole family's it. I just talked to my cousin. He's on, Miami, and I, FBI, DEA. I mean, it's just so in my blood. It's the only thing I know.
Yeah.
Um, I think of myself trained as a law enforcement officer, but I happen to know social media and sales. So that's how I view myself. And I think it's worked. Um,
Mhm.
after 10 years, I left finance, and I'll tell you the story. The guy who sat next to me, his best friend was an expat who worked in Bangkok. And every time he used to come visit South Florida, where he's from, he always used to tell me to come visit him. And I worked 90 hours a week. I was like, there's no way I can't take that long of a flight. And January of 99, it was a Friday. They came out of the office and said, we just sold the firm. And if you show up on Monday, you're going to have a new owner. So myself, as well as probably half the firm, resigned. And the guy called me the next day on Saturday and said, come over, you have no job. That Sunday, about a 2-week ticket. And after 4 days, I called my mother. I'm like, I'm never coming home. I love Thailand. And I never used my return ticket.
Damn.
Living in Bangkok for 11 years. I just fell in love with everything about Asia. The culture, the people, the sense of connection. What stood out to me most is how people treated each other, how respectful and respect and hospitality weren't just a job, but part of everyday life. That's
Mhm.
when I realized finance was transactional. Hospitality was transformational. Hospitality is about belonging. And that's when I knew that's where I wanted to build my life. And I did for 11 years.
So you've been living in Thailand, well, in Southeast Asia, not just Thailand. You moved
Mhm.
around,
Mhm.
but predominantly in Thailand.
Mhm.
And we touched it right at the start of this show. The US doesn't feel like home
No,
anymore. Can
Yep.
you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that living in Europe and Asia for so long, I and I do this to myself. Of course, it would feel like home if I planted roots, if I bought a house, if I got married, if I had kids. Of course, I can make it feel like home. But I really don't want to. I like being the global citizen. I
Hmm.
like being able to say, oh, well, I have nothing to do in November. Let me go rent an Airbnb in Lisbon for a month. Let me go to Thailand in December. Let me go visit a friend in Perth for a month. Like I like being able to do that. And I think it gives me a global perspective that being here and like most people, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's how people's lives are set up. You
Yeah.
know, you get married, you have kids, you have a house, and you're handcuffed, for lack of a
Yeah.
better word. You
Oh,
know,
yeah, yeah.
you can't leave your job because you need that money to pay the bills for the family, then the wife, and and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, you can have a
No,
wonderful life. My parents were beyond happiest. I mean, and they had that life. They had it. Even
but
my
that was not it was not in the cards for you. So
it
you're
was
like a
in the
digital no.
beginning. It was in the beginning. It wasn't until I went overseas, and that really changed everything for me.
Yeah. So you became a digital nomad as they call it
Before they
nowadays.
were cool. Before,
Yeah, before they, I was gonna say because now it's a thing.
right,
Portugal,
right,
Bali, yeah, you
yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that has been your life for a long time. So um, Asia and America, Europe,
Yeah.
total different personalities, behavior, communication. Let's dive into the main subject. That's why I wanted to talk to you. Let's build that bridge from there. So last week I saw a LinkedIn post that you shared, you wrote, and that was about ghosting. And I was like, damn. So I read your post and I commented, and then I was like, I know, yeah, I commented, and I was like, I need to send you a message. And then realized that we had been chatting, but I totally forgot to follow up on that. So I was somewhat, yeah, I was not really ghosting you, but I didn't respond. I
There's
didn't
a big
respond.
difference. There's a
There's a
big
big
difference.
difference. There's
Yeah.
a big difference. But you triggered my mind. I was like, and a lot of people commented on that post. I was like, you touched something here. Because can you give me your
Yeah.
definition,
Yeah.
especially when I mean, I've
Yeah.
traveled in Southeast Asia myself, so I know how the people treat one another. A lot more respect, humbleness, etc., etc. I don't think the word ghosting is, I don't know, but maybe it doesn't even exist there, or maybe it does now. But can you give me your definition of ghosting and why did you make a post about it? What is the difference between Asia and the West when it comes to that? And let's talk about it, why people do it in
Well,
the first place.
so it's a global problem. It is not a Asia, US, Europe problem because listen, hospitality, I mean, there's lots of Americans and Europeans and Asians working in Asia. So you're
Yeah.
communicating with all nationality types. So it's not a regional thing.
Oh,
Um, you know, ghosting, and this is one man's opinion, but I know it's a lot of people's opinion. Ghosting is one of the most disrespectful habits in business. And
yeah.
unfortunately, it's rampant in hospitality. This is an industry
Yeah.
built on communication and care. When a brand, a hotel, a tourism board ghosts someone, whether it's an employee, a partner, or even a guest, they're saying without words, you don't matter. That destroys trust. And trust is the livelihood of hospitality. I've had hotels and tourism boards ghost me after in-depth discussions about partnerships, strategy, working together. And what's ironic is these same organizations talk nonstop about guest experience. It's
But they don't
garbage.
even know the meaning. They don't
Garbage.
even.
You can't deliver a world-class guest experience if you can't even return a message or follow up with someone professionally. I don't care
Yeah.
if you don't want to work with me. Tell me no.
But at least say something.
Correct.
Because
Like,
that is the
how
issue.
are you raised?
Yeah.
Ghosting
Yeah.
kills culture internally.
And
Once culture is broken inside, it shows on the outside with guests. Hospitality
can you
must.
repeat that? Can you repeat that one more time? I like that one.
Ghosting kills internally, and once culture is broken inside, it shows on the outside with guests.
Do you think people realize that they are ghosting?
I think some do. Most do. Some don't.
It became normal.
You know what it is? And some are going to use the excuse that, oh, I'm just so busy, and if your email didn't make sense, why should I reply? I don't have time.
That's disrespectful. Totally.
Couldn't agree more.
Yep. I have good experience. My good friend, he is you're looking for something new, well educated, 30 years plus years experience in C-level hospitality, knows everything about communication. Our age, is being ghosted a lot, I have to say, with sending out resume, have a first call, then it takes some time for the second, and then there is a promise we will hear something within a week and we will update you, and then there is no communication at all. That's frustrating because there is someone at the end.
So I want to say one more thing. There is a difference between sending out a proposal or an initial email or a resume or whatever, and this person's getting 1,000 of those a day and you don't get a response. What I am talking about is the conversation starts.
Yeah. Once there is a conversation.
That is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking, because those are two different things. I mean, I think everything should be replied to, but I understand if you're getting, listen, I get several hundred DMs per week.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job to reply to everyone. I do it because I'm human and I was just built that way, but I understand how people can't. But if you're in the middle of a conversation, close it out.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That is the example that I was giving my friend who was in the middle of a conversation and he didn't hear anything back. And I told him, I said, funny enough, I'm going to talk with Scott about ghosting. And I said, this is, for me, unacceptable ghosting. At least I had it myself a few weeks ago. And there was a list of people waiting for an answer. I told my business partner, I said, well, how long is it ago that you received those messages? Oh, a few days. I said, I'm going to answer every single one of them today, at least that to let them know you're going to hear from us. I mean, that is the least I can do because I want to be treated like that. So I'm going to treat people the same way.
Exactly.
Yeah. On your post on LinkedIn, what is the overall comments, or what are the most interesting comments that you received? Do you remember that?
What do you mean?
On the ghosting LinkedIn post.
On the ghosting. I mean, listen, people know it's a problem. People know it's a problem. And I got news for you. So if you see that I get 100 comments on a post, know that I get probably 3 or 4 times that DM. So I get a lot of posts from people that work for big household names that they're afraid if they post publicly that they'll be fired. Seriously.
Oh.
Yeah.
That comes as a surprise. Okay, how?
I mean, just, maybe their boss sees it. Maybe their boss is active or whatever. I mean, maybe not fired, maybe reprimanded, maybe talked to, maybe whatever, but it's not a good thing. And, I find that the companies that do that to their employees are the ones that are treating them wrong to begin with.
Oh, Lord.
Like, what do you have to hide?
Yeah, I know. But this is all about communication. I would encourage people in my team to, it happens on LinkedIn, especially. A lot happens there.
It's a big problem.
It's a big problem. Okay. I want to move on to a strategy for hotels. what's one strategy? I'm talking about social media again, promoting themselves. So what's one strategy that consistently drives loyalty for hotels and cruise lines that you work with?
So, the single biggest driver of loyalty is how employees are treated, because that trickles down to the guests. Guests can feel it immediately. You can
Just like
build the
that
most,
ghosting stuff.
yeah, correct.
Yeah,
You can build
right.
the most beautiful building in the world, but if your staff is unhappy, underappreciated, or ignored, guests will pick up on it in seconds. I've walked into hotels where the building was 5 star, but the energy was flat. And I've
I
walked
feel
into
it. I
smaller,
feel that energy right away. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And I've
yeah,
walked
yeah.
into smaller properties where the staff has greeted me like family. And I remembered that experience forever. Brands that treat their employees as their first guests create a cycle. Okay. They create a cycle of loyalty. Empower your people, invest in training, celebrate the wins. That energy, it gets passed on to every single guest. Loyalty is not built on marble lobbies. It is built
True.
on smiles and stories and respect. That's a strategy that it's hard to write down.
Yeah, but it comes from the inside. It's something we all should know by nature.
And this is also, you know, the revenue department's always talking about ROI and what am I going to see? Like, you can't measure that ROI.
Yeah,
But it's
it's
something that
unmeasurable.
should be done.
Yeah, yeah. How is that compare? I mean, you're in the business now for two and a half decades, at least. How is that before social media and now in the landscape of very busy social media? Is there any difference?
What do you mean? Give me a little bit more
Uh,
context.
it's about communication. That's what we were talking about. So, and they a lot of time they get it wrong. That's what you said. So I wonder, has that changed over the years?
It changes all the time, but the fundamentals never change.
Okay.
The fundamental of treating an employee good, creating good culture, and it trickling down to your guests,
Yeah.
that doesn't change. That doesn't change for years.
Yeah. People pick up on that. I mean, it's the energy around you. Yeah.
Little
Yeah.
nuances change. They change with time.
Hmm.
Everything changes. That's the one constant in life is that things change.
Yeah. 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 I'm glad I'm speaking with you about this because I see it all around me, and people have difficulties with the change. But when you think about it, it's all about the communication that you would want to have with people around you, and you want to be treated the same way. And that is what we need to take with us, I think, in hospitality as well. Um, Interesting. What's the biggest shift that you have seen when everyone uh, in social media? I mean, for over the last 5 years.
The biggest shift is from brand first to people first. Guests don't follow logos, they follow people. They want human connection.
Yeah.
That's why influencer marketing has exploded because people trust people more than brands.
One.
Another huge shift recently is AI. Some people will ask, AI, what's the best resort in the Caribbean? AI won't prioritize the property with the biggest ad spend. It'll surface the brand with the most consistent, authentic digital footprint. That means the winners will be the brands telling real stories through people, not polished ads. The psychology here is credibility. People
Uh-huh.
crave voices they can trust, not slogans. Those days are
Yeah.
gone.
Right. So you, in
Again, you
your
got to put your finger on the pulse.
there's people talk a lot about influences, but I sometimes see influencers. I'm very critical when it comes to influencers. Is that a real one, or is that an influencer just to be an influencer for themselves? Very
Yeah,
polished.
yeah.
So I see the difference there. I know totally see what you mean. That's why um, I liked what you do. What I saw until now, that's authentic. You don't try to be pretend someone else or anything else, but this is who you are. Um, in comparison to a lot of influencers, but those are not probably the one that being hired by hotels. I can only imagine. So, what makes a good influencer? Because authenticity, realness, right?
Yes. I mean,
Okay.
listen, post-pandemic, so many people got in this business. I mean, it's so saturated. Um, I mean, you have to be real. I mean,
Very true.
I get contacted. Listen, it's the main reason people reach out to me because I have a
Yeah.
huge audience and they want to work with me about my audience. So that
Yeah.
is the lowest hanging fruit for me. But you'd be shocked how many people reach out to me and say, I want to work with you. You know, can you do this type of content? And I say, did you look through my social media at all? Because if you would have saw I don't do that type of content. I mean, you would be astounded how many people do not do research before they reach out to people.
Is that laziness?
Of course it is.
Yeah. I wonder
But
why.
to them, they will say, oh, I don't have the time.
Okay. The time. I don't have time. Yeah. Excuse. I see what you meant.
But of course it's laziness. Of course. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
How
you
can
want to invest in something, make it worthwhile.
Yeah. So how can brands use storytelling? Because I believe it's all about storytelling. I do that myself. I see you do that. How
Yeah.
can brands use storytelling, not just marketing, but realness? I mean, authentic storytelling to create trust. Because you
Yeah.
mentioned the word trust. It's
Yeah.
all about trust. So how can brands use storytelling? What is the best way you think for them? Is that? Yeah. Go ahead. I want to know that from you.
The psychology of hospitality social media marketing today is simple. People don't want to be sold to. They want to be moved. Storytelling works because it taps into emotions, not just logic. A book now post is marketing.
Yeah,
A
that's
story
marketing.
about a chef who learned recipes from her grandmother is a connection. People may not remember the price of a room, but they'll remember how your story made them feel. The psychology here is trust. When people hear authentic storytelling, authentic stories about your people, your culture, your values, they begin to trust you. Trust leads to loyalty. Loyalty leads to bookings. This is the difference between shouting promotions and inviting someone into your story.
I just love that. No, honestly, I'm just listening. I'm like, I have nothing to ask. I mean, I'm just listening anyway. But I'm gonna ask anyway because I prepared this. How do you help brands stand out when everyone is fighting for that? I mean, there's only a little bit of attention span, you know. So how do you help them stand out?
Okay, I'm really glad that you brought up the attention span thing. Yes, attention spans are shorting, but attention spans are shorting for boring content. People still binge watch a whole season of Netflix in one day on a Saturday or Sunday or a Thursday night.
True.
So attention spans aren't necessarily shortening. They're shortening when they want it to be shortened. It's shortened for boring content. Most brands make the mistake of marketing features instead of feelings. They say, we have the biggest pool instead of, this is where families reconnect.
Yes. What happens in that pool?
Yeah. Hospitality marketing, it's about psychology.
Yeah.
Guests want to feel aspiration, connection, and belonging.
Yeah.
I help brands flip their content so it speaks to emotion, not just amenities. That's what makes them stand out. The digital world is overcrowded. That's not going to change. But attention flows to whoever tells the most human story.
Amen. I'm so glad you mentioned this. It's true. Back to basic. That's yeah. I mean, yeah. I totally agree. So Asia and America, or Asia and the West. What's working in Asia right now that U.S. hospitality still hasn't caught up on?
Personalization. In Asia, even digitally, you're treated like an individual. From pre-arrival surveys to customized dinner experiences, personalization is built into the culture. The U.S. is still heavily transactional. Guests often feel like a number, not a person. The psychology here is recognition. When guests feel seen, they spend more. They return. They share the story. personalization is the ultimate form of respect.
Okay. I knew that already. I want to say something, but I will not promote my own company. But guestjourney.ai. I just mentioned this. Guestjourney.ai. I will move on. It's right.
Yep.
Personalization. People want to be seen. I feel much better. Feel amazing when I'm being seen. When people mention my name.
Yeah.
When
I get it.
Twice, it's whoa, that person knows me. I mean, it's really those little things.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of stories come to mind that from the interviews that I had with people on this podcast, general managers who told me their personal story and what they experienced and how they grew. And it's all about being seen, just like you said. Move on to your work. Have you ever launched a campaign that didn't work? And what did you learn from that?
Sure. Early on, I worked on a campaign with a major brand. We don't need to get into the brand, but they refused to let go of the old school tactics. They insisted on focusing on billboards, brochures, glossy ads, while the audience have already shifted to digital and mobile. They spent a fortune, but it failed to connect. The lesson was clear. Don't fight the market. The market doesn't care what worked 20 years ago. You either adapt or you get left behind in the dust. That's it.
Wow,
period.
That's clear. Yeah. And what do brands waste money on when it comes to digital?
Vanity metrics. They throw money at boosting posts without a strategy behind them, buying followers just because they want to look bigger than they are, chasing the likes, creating campaigns that look good in boardrooms and in presentations. They have no ROI. They spend for the sake of activity, not for effectiveness. The psychology here is insecurity. Brands want to look busy, so they buy the illusion of success instead of investing in the long-term trust and community. So if you notice, I speak a lot about the psychology because I dive deep into the psychology side of social media marketing, because once you get into the psyche of the guests, all things change.
Mm-hmm.
And then I reverse engineer everything.
Yeah.
So what do you want to have happen? And work backwards from there. And then build out the strategy.
It's like still building a business. When you build a business, you go to the end goal first. I want to be there. This is my goal. This is what I want to do. And then you walk back. Okay, now I'm here. So I know the steps. And now I know which steps to make. And that's the exact same thing what you just said. And I believe it is, you have to have the guts almost to connect with your guest, your future guest. Understand who wants to walk through that door. Who is that person?
Correct.
Yeah, I totally see you. I like this. What is the wrong way to build an audience? Is there a wrong way?
Yes. Talking at people instead of with them. Hospitality, it's a conversation. It's not a billboard. If your social media is just blasting promotions, you see them all the time. The hotels.
You get tired. Yeah, you get tired of it.
It's so ridiculous. Yeah, you're invisible. Yeah. The wrong way is pushing. The right way is pulling people in with stories and conversations. I did this post a couple of days ago. Pulling versus pushing. The psychology here is belonging. People want to feel like they're a part of a community, not just a target.
Identification. Hey, I'm that person.
It's the only thing that matters.
That's me. That's me on that lounger there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you worked with both giant corporations and small independents. And what is one mistake they both share?
I hate to say it, but they undervalue their own people. Corporations
they undervalue the wrong people. All right.
Their own people.
Oh, their own people.
Yes.
Their own people. They're undervalued.
Yeah.
You should put all your people there. That's what I would do.
Corporations hide behind their systems. Independents think they can get by without training. Both underinvest in their own teams.
Oh.
The psychology here is simple. Staff are the heartbeat of hospitality. Ignore them, you'll never win the loyalty from guests. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of the independents are doing it right. They really care for their employees. They really go deep with their staff. They treat them right. But a lot of them still do it wrong.
You know what? There was every time you mentioned this a few times now, it keeps coming back, and every time you mention it, this little private, my own experience. This is from 40 years ago almost.
Right.
I was an assistant manager in a big restaurant in the Netherlands, in Rotterdam. We had 50 staff. I think there were like 300 seats, big restaurant. And I remember there was this lady at a table. And she said, we come here. I said, yeah, I know you. We come here. Yeah, we come here a lot. And our friends are coming here. You know what I like about you guys? You are a team. You got everything under control. I can see that. And every single person, you guys, you interact with one another. This is the healthy. She said it. She said, this is such a healthy team. I'm so proud. I said, oh, thank you. But we were. And I said it. I mentioned that to the whole team late at the end of our shift. I said, guys, this is what Lady such and such said. Oh my God, did she say that? And everybody was happy. Yeah, but we were a team. It's exactly what you said. I mean, everyone in our team felt appreciated. And that's how we moved forward. We were always sold out.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that makes total sense what you just said. Okay. A few final questions. Is hospitality too obsessed with luxury and not enough with authenticity?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. I was afraid of that answer. Why do you think that is? Is that maybe part of the desperate fight to get that guest?
Because they think that that's what works. And they look at the aesthetics more than they look at the reality of... So they're playing the short game and not the long game. That's the end of the... I mean, that's the bottom line.
In social media, we talked about influencers. Is social media influence undervalued or overhyped in travel?
It's both. Overhyped when brands chase vanity numbers, undervalued when brands see it as real community building. Influence isn't about fame. It's about trust. You know, listen, I hate the word influencer, even though it's the word I get most referred to as, because I hate it because people get into this business just for the free stuff, just to become famous, just for the egotistical value. And I hate that. You know, I just happened to become an influencer. I didn't set out to become one. And doing influencer campaigns is like 20% of my total work that I do in a year.
What made you the influencer that you were? How did that happen?
I was early. I mean, that's so many words to describe it. I was early, very, very active. I realized a long time ago that it had nothing to do with business. I've always been a people person. I mean, I learned that from my father, you know, being a cop, and you have to be that way. So I've always been a people person. When I realized that I could make friends online, globally, 24 hours a day, I was like, whoa, this is awesome. I went all in. I just was very, very active. I mean, it was not uncommon when I was on Twitter back in the day to tweet 15, 20 times a day, 7 days a week. And I probably did that for 5 years. And I replied to every comment, every DM, every, you know, Twitter X is the only platform now that I don't reply to DMs just because, and I have it in my bio, just because I get, not these days, but when I'm active on there, I mean, I'll get hundreds per day. So it's too much. And most of them are just garbage. But yeah, I went all in and I mean, it was the right decision because now I'm steady in this business, but yeah.
Wow.
For me, it was just about making friends.
And it turned out you became a huge influencer because of that,
Yeah,
because of responding to
yeah,
messages,
yeah, yeah.
because of valuing people's time. I totally see what happened. Cruise lines. Do you think cruise lines are the future of travel, or are they already outdated?
They're not outdated.
Okay,
Cruising is booming. It's probably one of the fastest sectors of the travel industry. Um, Especially expedition and small ships, because they offer immersion, exploration, and community. There's no other form of travel that can combine that. Far from
wow,
outdated.
true.
They're evolving faster than any hotel can possibly um, grow. I mean,
Hmm.
think about this. In normal travel, there's a lot of moving parts. Okay. Say I leave my house in Miami. I take a Uber to the airport. I fly to my destination. I take a Uber to the hotel. I check in. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I'm either eating on property or I have to take a transportation to, from, plan out my activities, this and that. Cruise, I just have to get to the ship. That's it. I unpack once and the countries come to me. It's
True.
so easy. It's
Yeah.
so simple.
All right.
And I mean, I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, and back then Fort Lauderdale had the biggest cruise port in the world. Now it's Miami. It's 30 minutes up the road. So I grew up cruising was already a part of my family vacation every year. So I
Mhm.
grew up cruising. I've done 122 cruises in my life, and I work heavily with the cruise lines. Uh, but it's not slowing down at all. I mean, if you look at these shipyards are backlogged for 10, 15 years.
Jeez. And they're
And you
getting
got
bigger and
everything.
bigger.
Like, we just did a cruise to all the islands, Bora Bora, Tahiti, all those French Polynesia islands. We were on a
Yeah.
ship with 30 people. Or you can get on one of these monsters that have eight,
Yeah.
9,000 people. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's everything in between.
I see that the expedition ones,
Oh, those are,
Antarctica, the Nordic. I mean, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. That is, yeah, and it's also a bigger audience. I mean, China is getting. I mean, more and more Chinese
Oh,
people are traveling.
they're so big in expeditions. Yeah.
So the whole travel industry is just maybe at the start of a new growth spurt. Um, that's that's possible. If you had to bet on one market shaping the next decade of travel, where would it be?
What do you mean? Like where are the guests coming from?
Yes. We talked just I mentioned the Chinese
So,
market.
well, listen, it's there's still a ways for them to go to take over anything. So in cruising globally across all cruise lines, I would say more than 50% are Americans. But
That will
Canada's right after them, UK, Australia, Asia, they're all growing, but nobody cruises more than Americans just
no.
because it's, you know, the most popular and the most profitable cruise region in the world is the Caribbean.
Yeah, true, true, true.
And
And then
that's not going away anytime soon because they have these private islands and they just make so much money on these private islands. It's ridiculous.
so what do you see well the next 10 years in cruise? Let's focus on the cruising industry. How do you see that develop in the next 10 years then?
I think expeditions are going to become even bigger than they are. I think now you have all the brands coming out. Ritz Carlton is coming out. Four Seasons, or Ritz Carlton is out. I think they have 3 ships now. Four Seasons is coming out soon. Aman's coming out soon. Orient Express, I think, is coming out with a ship. I mean, you're going to see branded ships come out for all these big brands. Hotels see the growth and they're
Hmm.
diving in head first. I don't think you'll see a Marriott ship anytime soon, but you will see some of the smaller brands.
But you know what? I've also seen that's something that just I've seen that luxury brands like Louis Vuitton and Gucci are also
Yeah.
moving their way into.
Yeah.
I mean, hotels are fully designed in Gucci. I forgot
Well,
about the
what's
name.
what's what's big is the branded residences now, the condos. I mean, we
Yeah,
have the Porsche Tower in Miami. We have Austin Martin.
Aston
The
Martin in Miami. Yeah,
Austin Martin building in downtown Miami is one of the most beautiful condos I've ever seen. I mean, it is
really.
stunning. Yeah.
Talking about the future of hospitality. Um, Two more things I almost forgot. You've been part of the Star Alliance campaign back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So it was
What
the
worked
first.
and why?
Yeah. So Star Alliance didn't really go deep into social media, and I was part of their first round the world campaign. This is many years ago, way pre-pandemic. Um, and I think there were six of us, and each one of us had a different sector, and I had food and wine, just because back then I was big in the wine world. And
Right.
it worked because it wasn't about the planes. It was about the people. We highlighted the connections travelers make, the stories behind the journey, not just the schedule. People don't fall in love with flight times. They fall in love with the experiences.
Experience.
That's why
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
campaign
yeah.
resonated. It was emotional and it was great.
Nice one.
We did five continents in 35 days, 4 days in each one. It was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
really cool.
wow. What's one partnership that you're most proud of? What did it achieve?
So I'll give you one that's recent. There's lots that I'm part of that I'm proud of. As I mentioned, my mother was born in Jamaica, so I work heavily with the tourism board there and a lot of hotels down there. There's a brand down there called S Hotels. It's
Yes.
S Hotel Kingston and S Hotel Montego Bay, and I'm really good friends with the family that owns it. So we went down there and we did a campaign for both properties and really like dove deep. We didn't showcase the rooms. We told the story of Jamaica itself, the culture, the ownership, the legacy of the Issa family, the guy that owns it. And it wasn't about selling nights. It was about creating pride and connection. And the campaign elevated the hotel beyond a property and it positioned it as part of Jamaica's identity.
That's good. I like that. Wow. When tourism boards approach you, what
Mhm.
do they usually want, and what do you give them instead?
So they usually want exposure. They want numbers, clicks, impressions. What I give them instead is strategy. So exposure without engagement is worthless. It's like an empty bottle of wine. I help them craft stories that drive emotion and build reputation. Impressions disappear. Stories last.
Story less. Yeah, I mean, it's a recurring thing. It's a boomerang. This whole conversation is trust, storytelling, authenticity. I mean, and that keeps coming back. It's really, really simple, actually, when you think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Last question. What is the most creative upsell you've ever seen work in hospitality?
What do you mean? What do you give me a little bit more
Creative
content?
upsell. Upsell hotels.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so I I did a cruise one time where the chef invited guests into the galley for a private dinner. It turned a standard meal into a story.
There you go.
That's what hospitality upselling should be,
Yeah.
turning transactions into stories.
It into stories and experiences in the never memorable experiences. That's the word.
Correct.
Right. I think we should do a part two. And
Yeah.
also because we're almost an hour. I usually do 30 minutes, but I no, honestly, I feel that, and that it was my whole thing. I'm going to see you again because we're going to do some round tables with students in the near future. So
Yeah, that'd be
I
fun.
will have you. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm preparing that as we speak. For now, Scott, I want to end part one because we're going to have a part two because I want to dive deeper
Yeah, we should go
into,
deeper. We should go
yeah,
deeper.
I want to dive deeper into the subjects that we touched upon, which I believe have a lot more depth, and I want to dive
Yeah.
into that with you.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay, let's do that. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.